It's a weird song.
Have you seen Zoolander?
So yeah, we're doing the damn thing. Folks, welcome to season whatever, episode whatever of Better Than Broadway. Coach Rob here with you guys. Metz is here. We have our two guest hosts with us tonight. We have JR and we have Tom. Hello, boys. How's it going tonight?
What's up?
What's up, dudes?
Always happy to have you boys on with us. We're starting tonight's show with some sad news. As you can see on JR's background, the wrestling world was devastated this week by several losses. Most notably, Terry Funk on Wednesday of last week, and Bray Wyatt on Thursday of last week. Devastating for the pro wrestling world. Also, someone in the celebrity wing of the WWE Hall of Fame, Bob Barker, passed away at 99 without going over. He did it, but
he got as close as he could go without going over.
He would have been 100, I think, in December.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was only a couple months from it.
He was not far from it. So,
Rob, that makes 8 wrestling deaths in 8 months of 2023.
That's right.
We've got Billy Graham, we've got Lanny Poffo, we've got the Iron Sheik, we've got Darren Drozdov, Mike Halleck, Jay Pugh, and obviously Wyndham Rotunda. So
it's not been the best year for wrestling and wrestling fandom, but we will do these guys justice. A lot of the wrestlers were wearing Terry Funk and Bray Wyatt armbands and things like that during the shows the last couple of nights. I haven't turned on NXT yet, so I don't know what they're doing, but I'm sure everybody's doing some tributes. JR, let's start with the legacy of Terry Funk, WWE Tag Champion with Cactus Jack under the moniker Chainsaw Charlie, the 2-time ECW champion, your 1-time NWA World Champion, and he is one of the 2 men. There's only 2 men left alive that held the 10 pounds of gold, the original 10 pounds of gold, one being Ric Flair. The legacy of Terry Funk, JR, as a wrestling historian yourself, what's the impact of Terry Funk in his 50 years in the business?
If it wasn't for Terry Funk, I don't believe that we would have ever heard of ECW. He definitely probably put ECW in its popularity in its heyday from his early years when it was Eastern Championship Wrestling. He definitely made it known that ECW is here on the map and we're a viable, I guess that'd be one of the top 3 back then between the NWA, ECW, and WWE.
Yeah.
Or F, I guess, back then.
Which, by the way, ECW will celebrate its 30th anniversary of being founded next year on August 30th.
Oh, wow.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Feel to do something with that.
I actually found that out yesterday because we were talking about Shane Douglas and his legacy with Eastern Championship Wrestling title, the NWA Eastern Championship title. He threw it on the ground and he decided that he was going to be the ECW champion. And that's kind of how it all got started. But back to JR real quick. Were you watching wrestling when Terry Funk was in ECW, or were you watching when he was in WWE as Chainsaw Charlie?
I just know him as Chainsaw Charlie.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Have you ever seen the movie Over the Top or the movie Roadhouse?
Yes. Yes, I have.
Hell yeah.
All right. Tom, what's a better movie, Roadhouse or Over the Top?
Oh my God. Just for the sake of how much I've watched one over the other, I'm gonna go Roadhouse.
Yeah.
You know,
I think the overall like ridiculousness of it, obviously over the top. And plus it's a Stallone movie, so you can't really beat, Stallone in a truck doing, bicep pulls on his front, grill guard. But I mean, Patrick Swayze rips the damn throat out of a guy, you know?
Yeah.
So can't beat that. And Sam Elliott in the same movie.
I was just gonna say, anything that has Sam Elliott's always gonna win.
You guys know I run a security firm and I do bodyguard work and stuff like that. So I kind of have to watch Roadhouse at least once every night, you know, before I go to bed.
Once a night, he says.
At least once a night. That's phenomenal.
Roadhouse.
It's just always playing in the background, you know. It's like one of those Easter eggs of movies you see, like shows.
Weren't they supposed to be doing like a reboot at some point with like Ronda Rousey like playing?
I thought they did. I never watched it, but I thought that they did do something like that.
I don't know if it actually ever came out.
They're rebooting everything else. They might as well.
Yeah. I was under the impression, I remember that was why she originally left WWE after her first run, was because she was doing Expendables, and then they were doing a reboot of Roadhouse with her as the main character.
I'm not going to stand beside it and support it at all unless she has a mullet. That's all I'm saying.
It has yet to be released. Jake Gyllenhaal, Daniela Melchior, Conor McGregor, Billy Madison, and Ronda Rousey. Yeah,
that's right. You know what? Yeah. So Jake Gyllenhaal plays the ex-UFC fighter or whatever that does it or whatever.
Dalton.
Yeah,
his name is Dalton.
I'm sure it'll do well. I'm a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I think he did good in Southpaw.
I didn't realize he was in it.
Yeah,
Southpaw was pretty good. So once again, Terry Funk, 1944 to 2023. We love you. We miss you. Thank you for all the memories. Yeah, egg-sucking dog. Well, Dusty Rhodes, an egg-sucking dog, no more than 12 times in one of his promos, which is just absolutely fantastic. Our next piece is one that's probably going to hit a little closer to home for the four of us, because as people who have been watching wrestling in this modern era, as WWE likes to call it, Wyndham Rotunda, the son of Mike Rotunda, the IRS, or M Wall Street in WCW, as he was known. Bray Wyatt was very special. Very brilliant man, passionate for the business, grew up in it. And the Bray Wyatt character was just so unique on every level that you can imagine, from the presentation to the clothing. When he became the Fiend, the mask was so unique. Tom, breaking down Wyndham Rotunda as a person, Bray Wyatt as a character, when he returned for this second run after he had to step away for a little bit, after I guess he got fired from WWE, this second run where he was very genuinely coming to the ring, being himself before putting on the mask and makeup. What will be Bray or Wyndham's legacy other than being a two-time WWE champion?
Honestly, I feel like minds like his are far and few between. Like, one of the things I appreciated about him was not only like the freedom that he was given, but the ability to take something. Because like I remember when he first like brought the Firefly Funhouse like to the thing, I was just like, what the hell is this? And over time, like he got you to buy into whatever his shtick was. Like the dude, I feel like the WWE crushed Bray Wyatt in terms of making him a legitimate, like, he was, in for all intents and purposes, like the heir apparent to the Undertaker in terms of just that weird, like creepy, dark character. And then he had like 3 or 4 like squash matches in a row that just kind of just took all momentum away from him, that he wasn't considered a serious thing anymore. Then he came back, reinvented himself as the Fiend. Then they did the same thing to him all over again, crushed him. He had like 2 squash matches. I think Roman Reigns was one of them, and I can't remember who the other one was. And just that kind of put like that fire out. And then you had the whole thing with Lily and all that nonsense. But like, I just appreciated his mind. I honestly felt like he would have been like he would have been really suited for like Hollywood with like how creative he was. Like I wanted to see him get into some like producing or something like that, like just like write something like an indie film or something. Like I felt like his talent for what he was like putting out there, like it didn't match. He was an extraordinary brain. I liked listening to his interviews when it was just Rotunda talking, because you could just see like all the cogs in that guy's head turning at the same time. Like he was just super intelligent. And personally, being a bigger guy, I loved watching him move in the ring. Like I could not believe like how athletic and like flexible and mobile he was in the ring for a bigger dude. And I feel like he's always, I think his legacy is going to go down as one of the most creative talents that they've had, but also one of the most like underutilized talents that they had during that same time.
Justin.
Yeah, that was very beautifully put, Tom. I completely agree with you. Just to kind of piggyback off of it, I think some of the cinematic things that he did were fantastic. And I think that he's a quintessential essence of making chicken salad out of chicken shit.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, in a world, WWE where they, you know, kind of try to stifle you. Obviously he had a lot of strings attached to him to tie him down, and what he did with it was amazing. And his ability to bounce back after being booked poorly, and by poorly, I mean not winning, right? You know,
yeah.
you can't create a monster like The Undertaker and have him lose on a regular basis on television. And I think that was the only reason he wasn't a gigantic star. I don't think it was anything to do with his lack of ability. I don't think it was anything to do with his lack of creativity or his lack of charisma. I think it was 100% of being booked into a corner and him having to just make the best out of it. And for that, I'm sad for him. I am happy that he got so many chances to reinvent himself. And I am happy that at the very least, he went out with a win, with, you know, now someone who I hope that is going to be someone that they don't push down, you know, in LA Knight.
Yeah.
I think that hearing and seeing everybody's response, I hope that everybody holds on to this one a little bit more. Because like I said, we just said, there's been 8 deaths in 8 months in 2023, just in wrestling. I'm not even counting Bob Barker, you know? That's sad. That's ridiculous. And to go at such an early age, he doesn't need to be forgotten like that. And to kind of continue on to that, I think some of the things that were talked about and things that were done at All Out, or I'm sorry, at All In at Wembley this weekend was fantastic, with Malachi Black and the House of Black and their homage to him, the Fireflies.
That was the best one.
And yeah, it gave me chills and it gutted me all at the same time. I was holding back tears, you know.
Yeah.
It was just beautiful. It was perfect. And it honestly felt like he was there. It felt like he helped book that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tell that Malachi or Alistair or what, you know, that he had a very close working relationship with Bray, with Wyndham. And I think that his creativity and his ability and willingness to go outside the box and not be scared to try something new and different, hopefully resonates with the rest of the talent, and we see ripples of that for the next, you know, 10-15 years.
Beautifully said.
One of the things I think that I found really interesting, I know you guys don't particularly care for him at times, but I was listening to the Jim Cornette podcast, and when he was talking about, okay, I remember one time posting in the group and somebody was like, I can't stand Jim Cornette. I couldn't remember who it was.
Oh, he's an asshole, but it's like, when somebody's an asshole, but they're really good at being an asshole in wrestling, you like, oh, I like him.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. But one of the things that I didn't like fully grasp, like they read off the roster that he got brought into FCW with. And like the number of names that pretty much like headline all the major companies in wrestling right now that like he worked with and like came up with through like developmental. Like I didn't realize like the extent of like the network and the connections that he had with like some of the top talent in the industry. Like it was easily 10 plus guys in AEW. Oh, I mean almost like 20 something guys in the WWE main roster. There's like
It's
a
basically
handful.
television now.
Yeah, like
What we
there's a
see on television
yeah,
now.
there was a handful of guys in Ring of Honor and a couple of these other like smaller independents and stuff like that. I just didn't realize how far his reach like went until like Fournette started talking about that, and then I started hearing all the different tributes and stuff like that that were coming out. It was really cool to see like the kind of positive impact that he had on the industry as a whole.
Ironically, after All In, we started talking about, like SummerSlam and this and that or whatever. And I actually went on after All In, Rob, Sunday evening when I was watching it. And I watched SummerSlam 92, mainly because I wanted to watch Bret Hart and the Bulldog. Yeah, that was the last one in Wembley when they sold 80,000. So seeing that, I'm like, I want to see what that looks like. And I was telling Shane, I was like, I want to look at this. So we took a look at it, kind of like compare and contrast. And then one of the first matches that I completely forgot about was LOD, the Road Warriors versus Money Inc.
Yeah, DiBiase and IRS, yeah.
And IRS. And, that's the one where Hawk was like drugged out of his mind and can barely work. And he almost wrecked the motorcycle and all this and that or whatever. But then we're sitting there watching and it didn't even dawn on me until halfway through the match. And I told Shane, I was like, holy shit, I completely forgot. I was like, you see that guy with the suspenders? Like, yeah. I'm like, that's Bray's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I had to like explain it to her. She's like, really? Yeah, like, blew my mind. I was like, oh, that's ironic that like here it is. Like that was 30 years later. You know what I mean? His dad was at Wembley, and then 30 years later, almost to the day, you got the fireflies and the lantern lighting up Wembley Stadium.
Yeah, really beautiful. JR, final word on Bray Wyatt, Terry Funk, whoever you want to talk about.
Yeah, it'll be a long time before we see someone who has, like they said, very creative mind who thought outside the box. So yeah, it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a tough loss to deal with for a while.
Well, a beautiful mind and two cowboys from hell. May you rest in power, Bray, Wyndham, Terry Funk. Thank you for your memories. You will not be soon forgotten. Boys, let's take a deep breath and let's refocus here. We have a lot of fun stuff to talk about from the last couple of days. The two that I really want to talk most about are NWA, the 75th anniversary show, which was a really, really big deal, and obviously All In from Wembley, selling more seats than any other show in wrestling history at Wembley Arena. NWA did two nights. They had but night 2 Sunday is really the one that matters the most. This show emanated from the Chase in St. Louis, Missouri, which is a place where NWA ran a lot of shows. Crockett Promotions ran a lot of shows. The early days of WCW ran a lot of shows. But the Chase Ballroom in St. Louis, Missouri is a very big deal. The two biggest matches out of that were the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, the 10 pounds of gold, and the NWA Women's Championship, also known as the Burke. Mildred Burke, who was a women's professional wrestler, one of the early ones who held the NWA title. She was slightly before the Fabulous Moolah, and she's lesser known. But either way, you have two new champions. First of all, you have Kenzie Page, the former NWA Women's Television Champion, who lost her title in night 1 to Max the Impaler. And she has defeated Camille, who held the title for 813 days. She is the Roman Reigns of the women's division. And also you have Ethan Carter III, EC3, making his return to NWA, defeating Tyrus, his former bodyguard in Impact Wrestling, which was also a retirement match for Tyrus. So a lot of big things going on here, these two being the most important. Kenzie Page, she defeated a giant, and I think that really solidifies her legacy. Just want to touch briefly on that. I want y'all to think about this. 813 days as a champion. She's held that, Camille held that title pretty much through the whole pandemic, the way Hikaru Shida and AEW kind of held the title through the pandemic. Based on legacies and based on the ability to draw, Camille was one of the best. So having this young lady in Kenzie Page winning this championship, very big deal. We don't know what's up for Camille next, but if you guys had to guess, where do you think Camille heads after this title loss?
Where do we want her to head, or where will she head?
Where do we think Camille goes? What happens for her after this this loss of the title? Does she go to AEW? Does she go to WWE? She's one of the best women's talents in the world right now.
I think AEW needs all the help in their women's division they can get. Like it's one of those, like, is that where I think she should go? I don't know. I haven't watched enough AEW to totally comment, but like I was kind of running down the women's title match, and I like caught myself multiple times starting to do other things during that match. Like I wasn't
on which match, Rob?
We're talking about where the AEW women's title match. Like he was asking where I think she should go, and I said I feel like AEW's women's division needs a lot of help, and I feel like she could bring a lot of firepower and like attention to that division, and hopefully help elevate it like it should be with the rest of their card.
JR, your rebuttal.
Excuse me. I think she'll go to AEW. Because I don't know when. Jade Cargill is going to come back. Like she kind of put the women's AEW on the map for a good while with her run, and then Chris Statlander just came back. She's a bigger girl down there, so Camille and Statlander would match up very well if they build Camille well.
I actually like the sound of that. That would be a hell of a match.
I'd watch that.
I'd watch that. Justin.
I want to push back a little bit because, while AEW's women's roster is not WWE's, let's be honest, whose is? I think that they are leaps and bounds above where they were this time last year. As far as the people, I think between Toni Storm, Ruby Riott, Saraya, not Saraya, sis. I think just the three of them coming in, I think that's been fantastic. You have people like Hikaru Shida, who's amazing. Britt Baker is a homegrown star, and I think she's just as big and more charismatic than half of the girls that are on the WWE roster. I think there's a lot of power and a lot of potential star power to have people invested into a women's division there. I think there is a lack of storyline there. And they just don't give it enough energy, and I think that's what it is. But I think talent-wise, they have it. What could Camille add to that roster? Absolutely. And I think there are some bigger people there, like like you're saying, Jar. You've got Chris Statlander, who's a massive woman, massive in the sense of just I think she's like 5'10", and she's built. Same way with Jade. Jade I think is legitimately 6 foot or 6'1". You just got some big people, that have that Rhea Ripley presence to them, or the Raquel Rodriguez, who we may touch on here a little bit later. Will be, we'll be facing each other here shortly in Payback. But I think she could do good with that. I don't know that she would. I think she would be probably lost in the shuffle at WWE.
Yeah, that was more my concern. Is like I think she would like make a huge splash at NXT if they put her there first. I think that'd be a mistake if they did. but like I feel like she kind of have a similar situation with Taya, where like she came in, I think, as like Frankie Monet or something like that, had kind of a good push run through NXT. Then they pulled her up to the main roster and she got lost like instantly. I feel like that's what would happen because they just had like WWE is just so much more polished at the top of the women's card. I'm not going to say they're better because I do agree with you, Justin. Like they have some heavy hitters in AEW. They just don't. I don't know what the deal is and why the programs aren't better. But for some of the people that I see, like I'm excited for Toni Storm. I hope that she continues. I don't. Apparently I haven't been paying enough attention. She's got a gimmick now that she used to do back in the day when she first started or whatever.
She's like a Marilyn Monroe. It's fantastic.
I didn't know much about it. I was
like a female Ric Flair.
That's fair.
Yeah, I like
fair.
it. I like it. JR, final word on this. If based on Camille, the powerhouse that she is, give me a dream match scenario for Camille.
Oh, jeez. Probably I could see Camille and Mercedes Monet.
Okay. Yeah. A powerhouse and a technician acrobat. I could get with that. That would make good television. That'd make money. That would make a lot of money, especially with their names. I love it. So moving through, we have Ethan Carter III, EC3, Trouble, and Tyrus, his former bodyguard, who was the Funkasaurus in WWE and is a contributing commentator for Fox Nation. Tyrus has an interesting career. He really has. He's done a lot. He's been NWA champion for about a year now. But Ethan Carter III, EC3, did his best to change his narrative when he left WWE. And now he has changed his narrative, and now he is the NWA champion, and Tyrus is getting ready to go into retirement. With EC3 finally winning a big one, a guy who's had the look, a guy who, was the NWA, TNA, Impact champion, and has now won a very prestigious world championship, 10 pounds of gold. Someone like Nick Aldis, who brought that back to prestige. Someone like Cody Rhodes, who held that title briefly because it was his father's belt. Guys like Ric Flair, Terry Funk, Harley Race. The legacy of this title is immense. 75 years of history. Where does EC3 fit into this legacy, and where does he go from here? Does he and Matt Cardona? Is Matt Cardona going to be his next opponent? Tom, how do you feel about EC3 as champ? Finally.
I mean, I'm glad he's got a title on him and stuff like that. I don't know. Honestly, I'm a huge fan of Matt Cardona, so yeah, I would love to see that match. I just honestly recently from our group chats and stuff like that have just started to recently pay attention to NWA and all that stuff. Just because it was just something that I never really got a chance to watch much in the past, but now due to social media and everything like that, it's a little bit more accessible. Yeah, but you kind of like you said it for me. Like I would love to see him and Matt Cardona run a program. I think that would be a really good program. Just from the promo aspect alone. Like that's what
never lost. He technically never lost it.
That's what gets me. Like honestly, like I feel like a good like promo package leading up to the match is really what makes it for me personally. That's what gets me the buy-in. So, and I think the two of those guys would do a great job. I went back to like some of EC3's promos with Velveteen Dream when he was in NXT. Like I loved some of those promo packages and stuff that they did. And I feel like EC3 does a really good job, no matter who the other person is, of just like bouncing off of them and being able to kind of go with whatever they put out in terms of a promo and stuff like this. I'd love to see him and Cardona do one program.
Oh yeah. Justin, EC3, let's talk.
I've always kind of been lukewarm with him. I haven't hated him. I haven't loved him. I kind of see him as like MJF called Roderick Strong, like, hey there, generic white guy. He's great in the ring. He's good on the mic. He's got a fantastic physique. Did you know he's 40 years old?
Who is?
EC.
Did not know that. I
Yeah.
guess that makes sense because he debuted TNA when he was 30. So yeah.
Yeah, he's not a spring chicken. So we're not going to see, probably not another 10 years out of him unless, well, I guess it's possible because Tyrus is actually 50.
Yes.
So he's retiring at 50. I didn't realize he's as big as he is though either. He's a gigantic man.
Oh, he's a
man.
huge human.
6'8".
Yeah. Yeah, or something. Yeah, something like that. Of course, they always build a little bit high or whatever. But
yeah. He was also Snoop Dogg's bodyguard in the early 2000s.
I believe that. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't dislike EC3. I just don't have a lot of opinion of him. I saw him a little bit when he was in NXT, but I wasn't watching it that much. I wasn't a big fan of his control your narrative stuff. I wasn't really a big fan of any of that stuff. I thought the idea, what they were trying to do as far as like being different, I think that was cool, and I commend them for like doing that, their whole thing. But I think it didn't do Buddy Matthews any favors. It didn't do Braun any favors. It didn't do who else did they have out there that was doing it?
Those are the big three. Maybe Enzo.
No, there's another guy that was I can't believe I just had a brain fart in his name. He's back in WWE now. He was bald and they had a ridiculous gimmick when they brought him up. Holy crap. This is ridiculous that I can't remember his name. But anyways.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. He now it's gonna bother the crap out of me.
You bet.
But yeah, anyways, we can move on. I'll remember it in a second. But yeah, it's yeah, I think wherever he ends up, I'm sure he'll do pretty well, but I don't know. I don't know why he hasn't done it. He's got the look, he's got the charisma and this and that or whatever, but he's missing something. He like I said, I just see him like he's like a create your own character on 2K.
Right. JR, final word on EC3. Where does he go from here? Who is his next opponent?
Karrion Kross.
Karrion Kross. Yeah. There you
go. Yeah, I see him as another Matt Cardona in that spot. He'll put on some good matches. He'll, people will come to watch him, but I don't see him going too far.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd like to see him do something. Obviously, when you see someone win a title, you want them to hold on to it for a while. You hate to see a transitional champion unless there's some meaning and value behind why they do it. And with that, I would like to talk about AEW All In. Talking about transitional champions, I don't want to give it away too early with the main event. I want to kind of slow cook. But this women's match, this AEW Women's Championship match, 2-3 weeks ago on AEW television, Hikaru Shida defeated Toni Storm to be the new women's champion. And she's deserving. She carried the company during the pandemic. She was kind of like Drew McIntyre. She carried that title, and she never really got another chance with the belt. Drew hasn't gotten his shot yet because Roman is just dominant. Maybe he'll get lucky and get a chance with Seth or Nakamura or whoever comes along. But with Shida in this four-way in Wembley, it almost felt like Britt and Shida were just NPCs in the match, and it was all about Toni and Saraya. Saraya ends up winning this match. Her whole family come out with her, and the heritage that her family has in British wrestling, her mother being a worker, her father being a worker, her brother, has a contract with AEW now, which is so exciting. Zach, what do they call him? Zach Zodiac? Zach Zodiac. Yeah. So Zach Zodiac finally got a contract. He's working with AEW. When he's off injury, he will be in the ring. But for somebody like Saraya, who doesn't have a lot of moments left because of her neck injury. She gets the biggest win of her career in her home country at Wembley with her family in the audience, people cheering her on, coming out to Queen. You know, we will rock you. Like, holy shit, can you imagine?
Can we talk about for a second the amount of money that Tony Khan dropped on music for this fucking pay-per-view?
Let's say less, man. Let's talk about that. But first, how do we feel about Saraya being this champion now, JR, and Hikaru Shida's very short little transition reign?
Yeah, I don't like that he hot potatoed it, the belt. I'd rather have Shida lose to Tony Storm instead of win it there, and then have her Tony Storm lose to Saraya. If that was the plan all along, it would have just made the belt at least a little bit better than just, oh, we'll give it to you for what, 2 weeks, and then hop. Like, we're gonna give Saraya her big moment. Obviously, that's what Tony had in mind. Tony Khan had in mind. So it was like, you knew she was probably going to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's the same, like, since we're talking about SummerSlam, I mean, like, you're not going to have Davey Boy lose to Bret the Hitman Hart at SummerSlam in 92 in freaking Wembley. You're not going to have Saraya, drop. Her whole family's there. As soon as they started playing, Queen, and you see her family roll out, it's like, oh, well, she's winning. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, like there's no other way. There's no other option. I do agree with you, JR. Like, it would have been nice to have it not hot potato, but I do get where Tony was coming from with wanting to not have it come from Tony going to Saraya, just because they're obviously starting up a beef between the two of them, and you're going to need some kind of payoff. And I don't think it makes sense for her to win at her hometown and then start a feud with Tony, who has the belt, because it's that immediate payback. And I don't think there's as much mileage with that. And that's probably his thinking behind it. But I still think that it kind of sucks to not give, Akira, because she's earned it, man. She's not best on the mic, but she's like Asuka. She's able to transcend that and still has that kind of like X factor where you still really, really are interested in her.
Absolutely. Tom, do you feel good about Saraya getting the title and taking the title off of Shida this early?
No, that's what I was saying. Like, from the get-go, you knew how that match was going to go, and I lost interest. Like, there was the spot with Tony and her mom. It was one of those, like, you kind of saw that whole thing coming, and how that whole, like Justin was saying, like, you saw that they were going to build a program after this between the two of them. I was indifferent about the match. Like I said, I feel like, I don't know. I felt like there were just a bunch of different ways that match could have been built up to and executed, and that was kind of like the safest route to go, I felt like. And I wasn't it just like I said, it didn't do a ton for me, but I don't know.
Justin?
So I agree with the build-up, and that's actually a comment I wanted to make about, that's a critique that I wanted to make about the card in general. It seemed like, first of all, there are like no fucking promo packages whatsoever, right? No, other than the lead up for MJF and Adam Cole, there was no vignettes before these matches at all. And that was just, I don't know why. I think that's bullshit. They've got a team. You should hype it up, especially for people. This is the biggest pay-per-view that they've ever done. There's going to be people that aren't normally watching that watch, that don't normally watch every week. Give the people some build-up, previously on AEW, like, what the fuck? Yeah. But I do think that the match itself was actually very compelling to me. So I'm interested. It's interesting that you didn't feel that, because I do feel a lot of there's a lot of the female matches are lukewarm, but for this one, I like I'm a sucker for like that kind of drama, cliche, family, that kind of stuff though too. And I'm a sucker for the feel good moment of her, kind of turning face and and you know, and having her moment, especially after all the crap that she's been in with the, you know, she's been through a lot between the broken neck and all the sex tapes and like, you know, her ex releasing all the freaking porn and everything else. Like, you know, she's definitely been through a lot. But yeah, the build up sucked. The build up was stupid. There wasn't one to speak of. And that's really what upset me. That's the only critique that I really had on the entire show last night. But I'm sure we'll go deeper into that. But
yeah. Well, I certainly hope that this all unfolds over the next couple of weeks between Tony and Saraya, and I certainly hope that somebody like Ruby Soho does not get lost in the shuffle again, because it just feels like she's the only one that hasn't been women's champion. You know, Liv got her moment, and Tony had her moment, Saraya's had her moment, and Ruby's just kind of sitting there like, you know, when am I gonna do a thing? You know, so I mean, the Owen Hart, you know, memorial aside, like that's just a tournament. That's not you got nothing from that. You didn't get a title shot from that. You didn't get anything. You get a little plastic belt from Martha Hart, you know, once a year, and you get your hand raised. I mean, I don't get it. And even Willow Nightingale won that one. It wasn't even like Ruby won that. So
like, my whole thing is why didn't they do anything with the TBS title?
I don't know.
Isn't that like the women's undercard? That's I'm talking about the right one, right? The women's undercard
that's Jade,
title,
right?
Oh
Jade
no, Ruby's gonna challenge Chris Statlander at All Out next Sunday
for that one.
Chicago. It's coming up. It's
okay.
All right,
I completely missed that.
Yeah,
so Chris has a belt now, right?
Yeah, Chris has a belt.
She beat Jade,
and now Ruby's going to get her shot at that title. Hopefully, Ruby will get her flowers and win a goddamn title.
And is Jade hurt, or is she just?
I think her contract ended.
Powder.
Yeah, she's non-contracted right now.
I think her contract just ended, and she never renewed.
We're going to see her in WWE then.
Maybe.
I heard a lot of things before all that. Before I even knew about that, the WWE were very interested in her, and why wouldn't they be? Right.
I mean, I'm a Bianca Belair fan, to be perfectly honest with you. I think Jade's great, but Bianca is the smoke. So hopefully,
absolutely. But I'm just saying the it factor and like the body and everything else, like she just has it. She's still green, no pun intended, since that's her thing or whatever. But if we're going to talk about women, we should talk about Mercedes being
who was
at
in the crowd.
Wembley. Yeah. How about that? And then did you guys watch the media scrum when it was specifically talked about with Saraya?
Yes.
She made mention of it, and it sounded very, very much so like they did not do any denying at all. It almost sounded like they were teasing that she is going to show up in an AEW event ring sometime in the future.
I think that makes great sense because her run with New Japan was fantastic. Her little stint with Stardom was great. She's kind of done a few things to kind of, you know, scratch the itch. She's done Hollywood's not happening right now, so there's no Mandalorian. There's no opportunities for her to do any acting, but wrestling's still going on. That's why you're going to get John Cena for 7 weeks and WWE television starting Friday night, because he needs something to do. I mean, they can't make movies. They can't make TV. So poor bastard needs something to do.
I could see him on the phone talking to Triple's like, "Hey, I'm kind of bored. Can I come over and play for a little bit?"
Yeah, right.
You just need something to do.
That brings up like, when do you think The Rock will appear?
Yeah. The Rock's got so much other stuff going on though, but I'll tell you that this year will be the year. If he's going to do it, this will be the year. But Tom, you want to talk about the shot in the arm that a women's division like you're talking about, having Mercedes come into AEW?
Oh, I would love it.
That would immediately skyrocket it.
Yeah, I would love it. But the problem is that I feel like AEW does, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong because you watch a lot more of it than I do. I feel like they do a good job of getting these big names, but like they blow the wad way too early with them, and they just like they go all in, and then you don't hear from them again. Like with Ruby,
you said the name.
Well, like Ruby, like I mean, with Ruby, they brought her in, huge pomp and circumstance, and then this is like the second time she's gotten lost in the shuffle in that women's division already. And it's
Yeah,
just
she had.
they did the same thing with Toni Storm when they brought her in, big pomp and circumstance. Now, obviously, she was like Soraya's like right hand person or whatever, but I feel like they bring in these big names, which I'm like, all right, awesome. This is what the division needs. And then they just like they do one big pop and then they forget about it for the rest of the time.
JR.
No, I was gonna say like she Ruby had all those little vignettes on her,
Yeah.
I believe, Twitter before she got to AEW, and that they played and like they like basically hyped her up. She's like, oh, like you don't know where she's going. Like everyone knew she was going to AEW, but like they
Yeah.
hyped her up, like Tom was saying, and then she came in. She's like, oh, okay,
The
she's
power
here.
of social media. What a drug.
I feel like Tony Khan has ADHD and he's just a kid playing with a bunch of toys. And as soon as he gets another toy, he wants to play with that toy and he forgets about all the other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
I do think that they do a good job of some, not all of them. They don't drop the ball on all. But I feel like a lot of the names that they get in, there have been quite a few names that I think that they're such a big name. They get them in. I'm like, oh, well, certainly these guys are going to be in the top picture for at least a belt. And then they get lost in the shuffle. I agree with that. I think with the women's division, they just don't have enough time and they're not putting effort into the storylines. But me being the optimist that I try to be with wrestling is I think that having Mercedes come into the mix, she would be the Daniel Bryan, right? They wouldn't drop the ball with her. She would be the Jon Moxley. She would be that person that they do not drop the ball with, that they put the focus on and they say, okay, now we have her. Now we can put a much brighter and bigger spotlight on our females. And I think that at the very least, we would at least get a good top end of the card, feud or program. Because, that's the way it is. Like with AEW, it's the top, the MJF programs, top notch, amazing. It kind of starts to dim after that. You know what I mean? And I think it would probably be the same way with that.
Because God knows Mercedes Moné will walk out of a company if she doesn't get her shine.
Exactly.
Sorry, not sorry. Good to see Trinity being the Impact Women's Champion, and she's getting her due because she's a rock star and we love her. Guys, the tag match, the coffin match, Darby and Sting coming out to Metallica's Seek and Destroy, which was Sting's third or fourth theme song in WCW as they were kind of on their way out from like 99 to 2001. Sting came out to Seek and Destroy.
That's why the company went under. They paid so much money for Seek and Destroy, they couldn't afford to pay their bills.
Yeah, no kidding.
Out by Vince.
So take a note, Tony Khan. All these songs that you're paying all these royalties for, don't run out of your billions, because don't sell the Jaguars to keep AEW.
How good is Sting's life insurance policy?
It's probably multi-million-dollar, because this is a 64-year-old man risking it all for us.
And where is his life alert when he's in these matches? Like,
that's why he wears the shirt. That's why he wears the shirt.
Under a shirt.
His greatest opponent in this run has been Tables.
Yes.
Like, that's been his greatest opponent. He's undefeated with humans and wrestlers, but he's like 3-2 with folding tables.
Some of the bumps that he has taken in the last like 6 months, I'm just like, he's going to die in the ring. Like it's going to happen.
Let's hope not.
Well, we all saw and we talked about and we kind of laughed about, like, cautiously, because we knew that he was okay, with him missing that double table spot, right? But then here at this one, he hit the table, and then I don't know if it wasn't gimmicked or what, but it didn't break. And God bless Sting, because he recognized, he's like, I'm not gonna let this be a thing. The motherfucker gets back up there and jumps on it again just so he can break it and get the satisfaction for it. And that in a nutshell is what Sting is. Doesn't give a shit as long as he's doing the right thing for entertaining people.
Thank you so much, Sting. We just love you being in our lives. You're the friggin' best. You're the icon. He's probably my favorite wrestler ever. There's a lot of people that I really like, but Sting was always the guy that stood out to me, and still kind of does. Great match. Sting and Darby win the coffin match. I love the spot where Swerve throws the baseball bat into the coffin with Sting, and he just kind of puts it out a little bit, and the coffin doesn't close. And I was just like,
I'm glad you said that, Rob. I'm glad you said that
It's
because
adorable.
I like that too, but I've got a couple, so I have another critique. And it's just these little small things. You notice the difference between, a company like AEW and then like WWE, because WWE doesn't make these mistakes. But there were quite a few camera mistakes at All In. And that was one of them, right? Because it panned up, you saw it go in there, and it should have panned up to Swerve, because Swerve was, you know, pandering to the crowd and like drawing the attention and everything like that. So you could see Swerve and then not see Sting do that and then pan down. That's what WWE would have done. So you just saw it belt. But what happened instead, you saw Sting take the belt or the bat and then slowly move it and put it into a position. So when it did close, it hit it. And that completely killed the shine on that spot, in my opinion. You get what I'm saying?
I agree with that. After hearing you say it out loud, the hard camera shot just kind of killed it. Yeah, no, I agree. I think
and there was more than one of that. They had quite a few times during the night, if you had the volume up, where they just had it the mic was way too hot on the camera. And you could hear the wrestlers calling the match together. And I think even in that match, I think it was either Sting or maybe it was the Acclaimed, or maybe it was Billy Gunn, but it was like spear me. All right, spear me. You're hearing them say it, and it's right up next to their face too, and it's really hard to miss. And it's live television. I get it. And I'm a huge AEW fan, but when I see things like that, when you're at this level and you're literally putting on the biggest paid wrestling event in the world, you got to kind of nitpick, in my opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly. JR, have you ever watched a YouTube show called Botchamania? You ever watch that?
I was about to say, you talk too much.
Yeah, everybody talks too much. There's always a bit on there where the mic is too hot and they'll do something. And like Becky Lynch and John Cena and a couple of these other wrestlers are really bad about it. And some of the referees, like John Cone and a couple other guys, I remember watching WCW years and years and years ago. It was Vader versus the British Bulldog. And I distinctly remember hearing Nick Patrick say to British Bulldog before the Vader bomb, he's like, "Don't move." It was loud as shit. It was a Clash of Champions. It was loud as hell. It was for the title. Vader was champion, fighting Davey Boy. Nick Patrick goes, "Don't move." And it was funny because when Nick was training me and Blake Beretta, I talked to him about it. I was like, "Hey, you gonna call the match like you did Vader and Bulldog in '94?" And he looked at me. He goes, "Shut up." Just kept going. So I don't know. That just popped into my head, made me laugh.
No, you're right, and like you said, it does happen. I've seen we've all seen those memes where you see it or whatever, but they should be few and far between. And I just think that there were quite a few memorable moments throughout the night where I recognized, like, I feel like this is not up to the standard of a WWE, package, the way that it's shown. And I hate that, because there's a lot of stuff that WWE does that they've done that I don't like. I don't like the push the camera and the cartoon stuff like that, and the Michael Bay cuts that they do, where it's like, half a second and they're cutting to something else. Like, I don't like those things. So what AEW does right, is a lot of steady shots where it's just there and where it's open. But when you have something special like that, like the bat in the cage, or the bat in the coffin, that's something that needs to be choreographed and talked about and practiced ahead of time.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's fair enough. Tom, Jericho and Ospreay. You've got one of the greatest superstars of the last 25 years. You've got one of the greatest superstars of the modern era, somebody who moves like Jericho used to move, but slightly better. He's great on the microphone like Jericho. He's really come into his own since he left the juniors division in New Japan. And he's got a contract coming up in 6 months. He's got wins over Jericho, Okada, Kenny Omega. What do we think about Will Ospreay? I mean, where's he going?
Outside of his obnoxious use of the word bruv,
Yeah.
outside of that, like I honestly, like I hadn't seen much of him until he started popping up in AEW when you started talking about him in New Japan and stuff like that. I like him. I would like to see him either, in WWE. I'd like to see him in one of the bigger promotions, like in the US. Obviously, I know New Japan's a big promotion, but I meant like in the US. I'd like to see him in AEW, or I'd like to see him in WWE. I think he's a talent, and I feel like, yeah, I like him a lot. I just want to see more of him. The Jericho thing, I I am hot and cold on Jericho. I appreciate Jericho's ability to be able to continually reinvent himself time and time again and have this staying power. Like he is working, in my opinion, towards like that Mount Rushmore status as a wrestler. But like the Fozzy doing his intro with Fozzy and then going down and then like dedicating it to Wyndham and then going down to I just felt like it was just like I feel like he tries that like when he gets a spotlight, he tries to do too much with it, and it like dampers a little bit like his shine. Like he showed up in I don't remember that there was a clip that was circulating of him showing up with a mask at a another promotion or something like that and doing like a running code breaker. That is probably the best code breaker I've ever seen him do. He did like a running code breaker to Will Ospreay, like out of the corner or whatever. And like that got me to pop watching the clip. I just don't understand. Like, I know he's getting older. He can't keep doing that sort of thing. I just feel like all the additional pomp and circumstance that he puts into these matches just isn't needed. Like, I feel like it's kind of like what we were seeing with like Flair towards the end, like with TNA and all that, all that stuff. Like, what you've been doing and your body of work is good enough. Just keep doing that and keep like refining that. There's no need to add all this extra hoopla to it. Like, you're good, dude. We get it. You're respected. I just feel like it's a little too much. But I liked the match. I thought, like I said, I love Ospreay. I want to see more of him, and I don't care which organization he's with. I want to see more, and I want to see what he can do, with a proper title run. Like, I would love to see him come into AEW and like unify the X title and the other title or whatever the hell they got going on with that crap now. But like I would love to see him with a proper title run. Like I would love to see him in MJF in a program. I think that would be a great program to see.
I think that'd be a fabulous program. I also like the fact that he's taken the New Japan United States Championship and rebranded it the New Japan Pro Wrestling United Kingdom Championship.
Yes,
it has a black Union Jack across it instead of the U.S. flag. I love that. I think that was just what a stretch. What a fantastic way to do things. We're not horribly got a ton of time left. I know you guys are kind of getting ready for bed and all that, and we need to get up early. But let's talk about this main event. Unless you guys really want to.
Before we do that, I want to comment on the Jericho thing from what Tom was saying, because I'm actually kind of flip flop with Tom. I was underwhelmed with the match. I thought the finish was not. I didn't catch the finish with the whole "give it to me on the chin" thing, kind of like to take me out, like kind of like the Flair and Shawn Michaels kind of thing. I get what they were trying to do, but I don't think it hit. But I actually, and maybe I'm biased, but I absolutely fucking loved Fozzy playing Judas in front of 81,000 people at Wembley Stadium because I know and I've met and I love Rich Ward to death, as you guys know, their guitarist. And which, by the way, I think he's going to be coming on the podcast. But I literally texted him to do my podcast, the fitness one or whatever, and I forgot that they were doing this. He's like, "Man, I'd love to this weekend, but I'm in London." I'm like, "Oh shit, that's right." And then I watch it, and there he is. So I think out of Jericho, if you had the opportunity and you were as big of a rock fan as Jericho is, because Jericho loves music. He loves, it's been his first love, right? And that's why he does this. That's why he funded Fozzy even when they weren't making any money. If you had the opportunity to play your hit song in front of 81,000 people, that puts you in a league of the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, Metallica, maybe the Foo Fighters, right? There are not very many bands on the planet that can say that they've actually done that in front of that many people, especially at Wembley. It's such a historic. So just out of the sheer, like, it would almost be, I'd be remiss if they didn't do it, right? It's such an opportunity to take. And like, yeah, maybe it was clunky him being up there and then walking down and doing it or whatever, but I think Jericho's such an over the top character, it didn't take away from him. But like I said, I was so happy and proud of them to be able to have that experience, especially Rich, to do that, because it's a once in a lifetime experience for them.
Dig it. Well, main event time. We've got a couple of matches that we're just gonna kind of skip over because short for time.
Nobody cares about the Young Bucks losing again.
No one cares about that. No one cares about that guy who we don't like, who keeps getting himself in trouble.
I do.
Yeah, well,
Chicago, baby.
He's from your hometown. I totally get it, but he's an asshole.
Well, so, we did touch a little bit on the trios title, and I think that was a fantastic match.
Those are my favorite titles in AEW right now.
Yeah, I like the white jackets for Brody, and I like the lantern, the lantern for Bray.
Behind the main event, that was my favorite match of the night.
Same. JR, let's talk about MJF and Adam Cole, baby. This match, this is like, you guys ever play the Tron video game when you were a kid and you're on the light bike and you're kind of going all the directions and you don't know which way to go because the computer's so goddamn hard and it just goes in all the directions before it finally gives up on you? It's a pain in the ass, but it is what it is. And Adam Cole and MJF win the Ring of Honor Tag Championships on the 0 hour.
Yep.
Which is fabulous because now that establishes Adam Cole as probably the second greatest champion in Ring of Honor history behind Jay Briscoe. He's won all the belts. Grand Slam champion there. It's peculiar because you give these guys this opportunity to win these titles before their match. But if they lose that match, does it not add more intrigue to the main event versus them winning the titles in the 0 hour? JR.
Yeah, especially if they lost and one of them cost the other one the tag champs. Like if someone like Adam Cole fucked up a spot and punched MJF and then they lose because of it, like, yeah, add a little more drama to the main event.
Yeah. So, Justin, I saw you shaking your head no. Your rebuttal.
It would not help. I think them winning absolutely helped the finish the way it was. If they were going to do what everybody thought that they were going to do and one of them turn on each other, right? The obvious, like, oh, well, of course one of them is going to turn on each other. Then that would make sense. They lose it and that's like the obvious thing. But I think it's very, very good booking. I think it's because, like you said, it's swerving us. It's suspending your, disbelief for a second. You're like, well, of course they're going to turn on each other. How could they not turn on each other? And then they didn't fucking turn on each other. Like, how long are they going to string this out? I think it's great. And I think them winning and then that being Adam Cole's consolation prize and MJF consoling him after the match And here's what I believe more than anything else. I believe that they had that match in mind long before this ever started. And their whole double clothesline thing, that their gimmick that they tried to get over, they did that whole double clothesline thing just so it could culminate in them doing a double clothesline on each other at the climax of that match. That was the greatest bit. I think that was it was at least the most satisfying bit, like long term. Like, they keep talking about double clothesline, kangaroo kick, this and that. And then when they said double clothesline and then went and knocked each other the fuck out, like the schoolboy in me I just lit up, man. It was just fantastic. It's not quite, cinematic masterpiece, like in the sense of the bloodline, it's not The Godfather, but you know what it is? It's the fucking Naked Gun, which is just as good, but it's different.
I appreciated their take on the Eddie spot, with it ending with MJF.
Yes,
with
the chair.
Yes, that was awesome.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, the double swerve. Yeah,
where MJF just ended.
He's like,
he just puts it on his head, just sits down. I'm like, I popped pretty hard.
Who can out heel the other? Like, it's great.
Right.
There are scumbags,
That's what the psychology of that match meant to me, was that both of these guys are incredibly established heels. We obviously know that they're better as heels than they are as baby faces, and everybody knows it. Adam Cole was a scumbag pretty much all of his career. Skinny, squirrely little guy who just always gets the win. MJF, with his backstory of being rejected and being bullied and all these other things, and hurt people. But I love the idea of, is he going to hit him with the title? Is he going to hit him with the ring? Is he going to hit him with the title? Is he going to do this? Is Roderick Strong going to get involved? It's just, everywhere you turn, you're like, what is going to happen? How is this match going to end? And then it ends in a goddamn roll-up. It ends up in a schoolboy. 1, 2, 3, schoolboy. Adam Cole's like just flabbergasted. He's apoplectic, as Mauro Ranallo used to say. Mauro Ranallo loves that term, apoplectic. So, and then at the end of the match, they walk out. They do the hand raise. They walk out arm in arm. They both got a championship. Adam gets his consolation prize to be the Triple Crown ROH champion. MJF continues his title reign, which I guess they were going to do MJF and CM Punk for the real world title and the AEW title. But I mean, with the way things are going, I just kind of don't want to see that. I do not care. Goodbye.
Fucking cancer. I'm sorry, Tom.
Piss right off.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know.
I honestly, I was fine with everything until he pulled out the title. I really was. Like, I was like, give him, like, have his own show. He's off to the side doing his own thing. But then as soon as he pulled out the title and spray painted the X on it, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, let it go. Like, I'm finally getting to my like point of being like, come on, man. Like, I'm trying here, but you're not helping me much.
Petty Betty.
Well, I mean, we all heard the drama backstage about him and Jack Perry, right?
Yep. And Miro now. It came out.
And then, well, that's what I was going to add to it. I was like, now apparently it was with Miro as well. So like at this point, there's no way that it better not be a work, because they're just doing a disservice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But going back to, the whole MJF and the Adam Cole thing, just fantastic. I love it so much. And I think that it's going to be something that they can go for a long time with. I think here, what I loved, I'm sorry, I lost what I said, and I just found it. What's really interesting to me and what I'm excited about was that you can do wrestling's heel versus face, right? That's traditional. You want heel versus face, you sell it. The face, you're paying to see him win. The heel, you're paying to see him get his face kicked in, right?
Yeah.
And you can do that match all day. You can also do a face versus face match, right? That happens. That works.
Oh, sure.
You got your Ultimate Warrior versus Hulk Hogan. But very, very rarely do you ever see them do, because it doesn't draw money, heel versus heel. And for two wrestlers to be so damn good at what they do, to legitimately be heels and at the same time be over and fight each other and have that much momentum and that much, just a really good storyline into it, compelling is the word that I'm looking for. I think that speaks volumes to their talent. You know what I mean?
Agreed.
When's the last time you saw two heels main event a pay-per-view?
Well, that was my whole thing. As soon as I saw that
Yeah.
they won like the Ring of Honor titles, I was like, oh, they're going to be running this for a while. Like, and I feel like it should have been. Like, I wasn't ready for this program to end. And whether they do like a continuation from this or they kind of cool off and they both do their own little thing for a minute and then come back to it, I'm fine with it. I really am. Like, I actually would be okay if they just like them losing the Ring of Honor titles is what brings them back to having another match for the title or whatever. Like, I'd be 100% okay with that if like they never talked about the main title for a minute and just focused on the Ring of Honor tag team titles.
I like it. JR, what's next for Adam Cole and MJF and their best frienddom?
I think they'll defend the ROH titles a few times, and I think somewhere in there, at least in my opinion, Roddy's going to get jealous of Adam and MJF's relationship, since he was the best friend before MJF was.
Yeah,
and I think somewhere in there, either logic would say he costs Adam Cole the rematch if they have another rematch, but maybe the swerve is he helps out his Adam Cole instead of screw him over.
JR, would you want to see Roddy like third wheel that tandem for a little bit and the three of them run around together?
Yeah, they could get the trios title somewhere in there.
Oh, now you're talking. I would love that.
Can you imagine those guys having all the gold?
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting thought. Here's an interesting thought, because you've got some X factors in this story, because you've got MJF and you got Adam Cole on the surface level. Then you got Roddy in the background. Then you got Taven and Mike Bennett of the Kingdom all in the back, because you got to remember before you had the Kingdom, you had Adam Cole, you had Maria, Bennett, and Taven. That was the Kingdom. And those guys made a big run. They were tag champs. Cole was champion. And then you got Roddy with him with Undisputed Era. So are we looking at an Undisputed Kingdom, or does MJF swerve everybody and he's the devil that we all know that he is? Who's going to turn on who and why? Justin.
Man, I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I mean, Max is legitimately turning into like he's creating this weird quasi anti-hero like Stone Cold was, right? But in a different way.
Sure.
The whole he's our scumbag thing, like he's openly becoming a loving villain. And I think that opens him up to get screwed and become full face, full-fledged face.
Yeah.
And I think that would make more sense, since he's the one that has a title. He's the one that needs to fall. So I think that you see Adam Cole screw him over at some point. I don't see there being really any other way. I think they're just going to string it out until it's like a horror movie, to where you know what's going to happen, but the trick isn't what you know what's going to happen. The trick is you don't know when it's going to happen, and they catch you when you're, the suspenseful music plays up. It's like, duh, 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 and then it stops, and then nothing happens, and then it hits you out of the blue. And I think that's what we're going to find.
JR, do you concur?
Yes. Yeah. It's going to happen out of the blue. It's going to be a swerve from like, oh, it's going to happen here, like Justin just said, and then, oh, it didn't happen. And then smack out of nowhere.
Yeah. Tom, do you do this on television or do you do this at a pay-per-view?
I think it's got to be done at a pay-per-view. I think they do. I personally, my only gripe with AEW is I feel like they do too much on television. I don't understand the events that they do, like the Fighter Fest and the I feel like I joke around, I call them like the midway specials that they do all the time.
Clash of Champions.
Yeah, like those little like things that they do. Like I don't understand those. If they save some of these moments for like those, I'd be okay with it. But I feel like on any given night something can happen, and maybe that's Tony Khan's whole shtick. And that's what he's trying to do, like change up the script or whatever. But I feel like big payoffs like this, like it's shaping up to be, has to be done on a pay-per-view. Like, do I think it'd be cool if they could run it all the way back to Wembley next year and do this big payoff? Absolutely. Do they have the ability or the power or like the staying power to do so? I have no clue. Like JR suggested, like I think honestly a great way to extend that is throw Roddy in there with the three of them getting along, Adam Cole playing Peacemaker, and then like somehow winning the trios championships and having a run for a minute, you know, with those, and then losing them before Wembley and going on like that way. Like I feel like there's ways to make it happen. I just don't know, like you were saying, with Tony Khan's ADHD booking style, like if they're going to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well,
I think the problem with that is that you're going to get too much criticism of it being like the Bloodline storyline.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, well,
you know,
AEW is copying WWE again.
Oh, it's a Peacemaker. Oh, Adam Cole. Oh, you mean Jey Uso? You know that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that wasn't even where my head went, but I could see that. Yeah.
I guess time will tell on how things pan out in the Adam Cole MJF, the Better Than You Bebe saga, as we're going to start calling it. Well, guys, this has been a hell of a show. I'd like to thank JR and Tom for coming on. I think Tom has now become the most tenured guest host in the history of Better Than Broadway.
He's overtaken Dwayne.
Six-time champion. He has taken it from Dwayne, who has now been relegated to number 2 with 5. JR, I think this is your third, fourth appearance on the show.
Dwayne.
I think it's the 4th.
Sweet, dude.
Ironically enough, this is the first one that you're on, JR, that I've been on.
Yes.
Yeah.
And even more ironically is the fact that everybody on the dais has a beard, but I'm not wearing a hat.
You didn't get the memo.
And you all have glasses.
Yeah, where's your hat at?
I got a Santa hat.
I contemplated taking my glasses off halfway through, so the top had no glasses and the bottom had glasses.
I was thinking if you took your glasses and your hat off, then you and I
see that's a problem though, Tom, because like we're all different. So see, Rob's on top of you, and then I'm on over.
Yeah, he
sound
is.
Right.
Yeah, you guys are on my left, so
we're all switched over or whatever. No, you got to put your hat on backwards, Tom.
That's the thing. If you put your hat on backwards and then you put your glasses back on, I'm not going to tell any of you apart. It's like the Clark Kent syndrome.
Now we're like one of these. What is it? The Sesame Street. One of these things are not like the other one.
There's no D. All of the above. You have to choose one between the four. So, well, guys, this has been a great show. Once again, our condolences to the Rotunda and Funk families in your losses. Also to the Barker family in the loss of Bob. On National Dog Day of all days, which
Price is wrong, Bob.
Huh?
Price is wrong, Bob.
Bitch.
Price is wrong. In honor of Bob Barker, help control the pet population. Please have your dogs spayed or neutered. This has been Better Than Broadway. We hope to see you guys again. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, playlists and podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all of the things. And a bunch of handsome men on the dais. Check us out on the YouTube. And happy wrestling, everybody.
The price is right. Come get your prize. Dun, 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 dun.
Wonder if we can get the Price is Right theme to play at the end of the show. Bum, bum, bum. But they probably won't because of royalties.
Yeah, we're not Tony Khan.
Yeah, Tony Khan, send us some money. Come on the show. Good night, everybody. Take care.